All right, in today's video, we're going to talk about the Zillow Zestimate. Man, I love talking about the Zillow Zestimate. It's been around for almost 20 years at this point, and it made headlines back then, and it still makes headlines today. But I'm going to give you a bunch of good reasons why you should never ever trust the Zillow Zestimate. And the first reason is that nobody actually knows how the Zillow Zestimate works. Well, nobody outside of Zillow. I assume that the engineers in Zillow have a pretty good grasp on the inputs that it uses. But outside of Zillow, no one really knows, and it's really hard to trust what methodology they may be using when they won't tell you a single thing about it. So that's one good reason not to trust them, is that you really just can't tell where that number is coming from. But another really good reason you cannot trust a Zillow's estimate is that even if Zillow is doing a great job at calculating the value based on all the things that it knows about, like the square footage and the lot size and the age of construction and bedrooms and bathrooms and all that stuff, there's a bunch of stuff that Zillow could never possibly know about. Now, a few years back, I seem to recall that Zillow was saying they're going to start employing artificial intelligence to analyze the photos that they see on their site and determine, if the house has been upgraded or if it's, in really bad condition or if the landscaping is really overgrown, and use that as part of the calculus for the Zillow Zestimate. Unfortunately, no matter what you can tell from the photos or even from a video or like a floor plan, there is just so much more to a property's value that you could never begin to tell from any of that. Like, for example, what does that property smell like? Does it smell like mold? Does it smell like smoke? Does it smell like, like cooking grease? Does it smell like pet urine? Yeah, there's no way you can tell any of that from a photo, but yet the smell of a house, I'm going to tell you, that's enough to drive a lot of buyers right out the door, and that's going to lower the home price, and there's no way that Zillow could know about that. How about like the driveway that goes to the house? Can Zillow tell if it's a really narrow driveway or a shared driveway, which a lot of people don't like to share the driveway, or if there's actually very little parking for the property up by the house, up that driveway? All of those things are going to be a big impact in the value as well. Now, how about the view? Can Zillow, appreciate the view? And of course, it can read the listing description and it will know if there's an ocean view or not, but there's an ocean view and there's an ocean peak. Is it a whitewater view? And what's the degree of that view? Is it a 180-degree view or is it like a 3-degree view? There's no way that Zillow could possibly know any of those things. And so it's just impossible for Zillow to come up, I think, with a value that is in any way trustworthy. Now, the next reason you can't trust Zillow's value is because Zillow is always looking in the rear view mirror. So we don't know exactly how Zillow comes up with this Zestimate, but certainly a big part of that has to be other comparable sales. And actually, if you look on the Zillow page for a property, it'll show you some of the recent comparable sales. But how exactly comparable are those sales? Nobody really knows. Do we know if one sale was from a seller who was extremely motivated and that they accepted an offer which was maybe a lot lower than they could have got if they might have taken a little bit more time before they accepted an offer, or could have done a better job in negotiation? No, we don't really know that at all. So Zillow is always looking at past data, which is yesterday's real estate market, not today's real estate market or tomorrow's real estate market. So they're not going to be able to tell you what you should price your home at today. And in a fast-moving real estate market, which a lot of times the market can actually turn on you very quickly, you could be getting a price from Zillow, which is yesterday's price. And if the market is in fact shifting, as many people say the market today is shifting, you could be putting a price on your property or insisting on getting a price for your property that is very, very far divorced from current market prices in the area. So my advice is that you need to understand that what Zillow is telling you is not current data, it is old data. Another reason I don't think it's very smart to trust the Zillow Zestimate is that Zillow kind of treats all homes as a commodity, as if they actually have a price, but there's a number of different factors that can affect the price that you are able to sell your property for. And one of those key considerations is the actual pricing strategy that you use. So I don't care how good of a job you do preparing your home for sale or how wonderful the photos look, virtual tour that you've created, or the fantastic job you have done promoting your open house. The reality is that if your home is overpriced, if you are just asking too much money for your home, it won't matter how good of a job you've done preparing it for market or the staging or the photography or any of that stuff. If you have just overpriced your property, what does that mean? It means you're going to sell your property probably for less and oftentimes a lot less than you could if you had used another pricing strategy. So Compass, when they ran the numbers, they showed that homes which are overpriced sell for about 8% less per square foot than other comparable homes which were not overpriced. And how does Zillow account for that in their Zillow estimate? And the answer is they don't account for that. And if you are looking at a Zillow Zestimate and thinking like, this is what I'm going to be able to get for my home, you should be well aware that that price is yesterday's price and that you could in fact get far, far more for your home than that price suggests, or far less for your home than that price suggests, depending to a great extent on the pricing strategy that you use when you go to sell your home. Another important reason never to use the Zillow Zestimate is that it really does weaken your negotiating power. A lot of people, they see the Zillow Zestimate and they anchor their idea of how much the home is worth around that Zillow Zestimate, and that is really a bad idea. So, for example, you get an offer on your home, and maybe it's the first offer you've had and it's been on the market for 2 or 3 months, and the Zillow Zestimate happens to, match your home's list price very closely, which is another funny thing. Zillow oftentimes, after you list a property, they will very oftentimes change their estimate to be very close to your list price, which is a funny business practice if you ask me. But if you are looking at the Zillow's estimate when you get an offer and you need to sell your home, you might be tempted to negotiate because you think that's what your home is worth because that's what Zillow says it's worth. So that might lead you into a really unfortunate negotiating position where you are stuck on a price that actually is really far divorced from what the market is willing to pay right now. On the other hand, let's just say that you are looking to make an offer on a property and you are using the Zillow Zestimate as a justification for the offer that you are making. Very often that Zillow's estimate is wrong. And so it could be that you are going to offer way too much money for a property, or it could be that you are not going to offer anywhere near enough for the property. And that happens a lot in the Bay Area here when we have multiple offer situations. People will offer very close to what the Zillow's estimate says. And in reality, they might have 10 or 20 offers, and it could be selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars above what the Zillow's estimate says. But you, the buyer, you're stuck at that Zillow's estimate price because you think that the Zillow's estimate is a good, reliable indicator of market value, and it's not. So a lot of people get into serious trouble by ascribing too much value to that Zillow's estimate when they are negotiating. So I strongly advise you just to put that value completely out of your head. Now, another good reason why you should never rely on the Zillow's estimate is that there are many other competitors in the online automated valuation space. So, for example, Redfin.com, they have a home value estimate, and Homes.com has one too. And Realtor.com is actually cool. They will give you 3 different automated valuations for your property. And then, of course, there is ComeHome.com. Love that, ComeHome.com. They do a fair job at giving you a automated valuation for a property. So you should definitely compare what the Zillow's estimate is to what all of these other automated valuation systems say. And what you will find oftentimes is that there is a huge disparity between Zillow's price and Redfin's price or Come Home's price or the Homes.com price or Realtor.com price. Really, really huge disparities. Oftentimes they are 20% different or more, maybe from the low price to the high price. And so you want to see what all the prices are. And unfortunately, it's not a matter of like picking the median price, the one in the middle, or averaging them all together and using that price. That might get you closer to the price using the wisdom of crowds, but you could certainly be far, far off if you are using any of those valuation models. But just know that they are out there. And if you are trying to figure out how much a home is worth, just from the comfort of your desktop computer or your phone, you would be well advised to check out all those other pricing systems as well. Look, the truth is that there is no one set price for your home. It's not a commodity, and the value is always in flux, and the value is also malleable. So it really depends on how you are pricing your property for sale, the condition your property is in, the upgrades, the amenities, the floor plan, the road noise, the view, the smell. There are many, many factors that go into the desirability of your property, into how the market will perceive the value of your property, that it could never be accounted for in any algorithm. So if you're trying to figure out how much your home is worth in today's real estate market, well, I have a really good idea for you. Just go ahead and give me a call. I would love to come over and see your property and evaluate it in person. I can't really do a much better job than Zillow or any of those other platforms could. From the comfort of my chair, I can run the comps and give you an idea, but that would be doing you a disservice because I really need to get in the door of your home to take a look around and get a feel for the property so I can properly calculate my impression of the various aspects of your property and how much they will impact the value when you go to list your property for sale or make an offer on a property. So if you want to get hold of me, I'm easy to reach actually. You can find my phone number. It's right here at the bottom of the screen. So by all means, give me a call or shoot me a text message. Be happy to talk to you about your situation and examine the property in question and give you my best advice for either the pricing strategy or your offer strategy. All right, well, that is all I have for this video, and I want to thank you so very much for watching. And if you did enjoy this video, I'm guessing, just a guess, that you might also enjoy some of these videos over here. These are some of the most popular videos here on my YouTube channel, so go ahead, take a look. All right, that's all I have for this one. Thank you so very much for watching, and please stay tuned.